It's not possible to overstate the power of relationships. We just touched on a few things here.
I always wanted to create a place that I want to work, right? I spent a ton of time there.
Hey Restorers, thanks for checking out this episode of the Restoration Masterclass. Again, we are in season 3. This season is sponsored by AnswerForce, and we are talking all about power skills, which is a much more fun way of saying soft skills. So today I am very excited to be joined by somebody who works in the industry, but also outside the industry, which is always exciting to bring kind of a fresh face onto podcasts. I love that. So I am joined by Amy Shannon, who is with Pinnacle Leadership Solutions. I got to meet her through the Violand Executive Summit. I've taken some of her courses on a variety of topics related to people and generations in the workforce and HR and all the things. So Amy is here to kind of talk about soft skills when it comes to building teams and kind of from an HR standpoint and how to bring out those soft skills or power skills in your team, all of those things. So Amy, I'm going to toss it over to you to kind of introduce yourself a little bit, and then we will get the ball rolling.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm an organizational development consultant, which basically means I do human resources work. My specialty is leadership training and executive coaching. So I work with a lot of individuals in the restoration industry, owners and management one-on-one to help them develop their people. And then, of course, at the Violand Summit and different conferences, et cetera, I'm doing training on those similar topics.
Perfect. Okay. So when we're talking about power skills, what do you think are some of the most important ones for people in the restoration industry specifically to have? What does our industry need when it comes to clients?
Well, absolutely, because of communications. Communications is beyond, I guess I don't even have to go into detail there as far as the need for communication and being able to effectively communicate, customer service, interacting with your team, et cetera. But I also think that that leads to also communication to the follow-up and the organizational skills and being able to delegate. I think those are all very important skills as a leader in the restoration industry, some definite power skills that we want to grow and develop.
Okay. Thank you for the perfect segue there. So how can companies help develop power skills? I know we talk about, when you hire somebody, hire for character, train for skill. And, soft skills are a little bit of this in-between area where some people can be developed to be excellent in some ways, and then others just may not be like that 100% customer service rock star that other people may be able to be, or there are just different things. So how can you train people in this soft skills arena, especially maybe if we're talking specifically communication or kind of emotional intelligence, working with our customers, but how can you train people for soft skills?
Well, one of the things that I encourage the leaders I work with to have a very open environment for feedback and an open environment for growth. We want them to have that growth mindset because then we can create a culture where the employees are learning and growing. Possibly in their staff meetings, they're talking about how do you communicate with the customer? What are some of the things you want to say and that you don't say? What are some trigger words? There's plenty of articles out there. There's plenty of YouTubes that you can actually bring into a meeting that you have for 5 or 10 minutes. But you're intentionally encouraging your employees to practice, and you're practicing. The other piece that I encourage in coaching is having some sort of time that you set aside for 15, 20 minutes, a meeting with yourself where you as a leader are continuing to grow those skills and practice or watch a YouTube. And you create some sort of a reminder system to remind yourself, this week I'm going to practice this skill. It takes a good 28, 30, 60, 90 days. Everybody's different to create a habit. So we need a reminder skill or a reminder tip for us or a habit to be able to make that a habit. So we need some type of a system to say, okay, every day I'm going to work on this new word or this new phrase. I'm going to talk to my employees. I'm going to coach them. I'm going to develop them. But first and foremost, we have to grow, and we have to create that environment where they want to grow.
Okay, so talking about leaders, and I would love for you to answer this question, is looking at all the leaders you've ever worked with across any industry. What are some of the most common power skills that you see amongst the very best leaders you have ever worked with? Like, this is their power skill. They nailed it. They are at the top.
Absolutely, without a doubt, influencing. Influencing is a very hot new skill, shall we say, came out pre-COVID, maybe 15 years ago, but the ability to influence people. Some people have that innate ability, but it is absolutely something that you can learn. You don't always have to be born with it like a politician. And, we obviously all watched the debate recently, so we don't have to just be born with that charisma or that ability. We can practice, we can learn it. And one of the things I teach a lot is 9 techniques to be able to influence people. Everybody is influenced different. and you influence people differently. So the key is making sure that those are in alignment. But I think that's the most important, because then they're able to engage their employees, they're able to coach them, they're able to be confident to give that feedback that's needed, and that ability to share with them how to influence customers, etc. So I think that one is the most important.
So how do you help leaders that might be lacking in that influencing area where they could use some of that influencing characteristic? What are some steps to help build that up?
Absolutely, absolutely. We call it stretching our influencing muscles. First and foremost, being able to be a strong communicator, to practice your communication skills, practice the phrases you're going to use. Again, I mentioned that I have 9 techniques that I use with my clients that we actually look at them and we practice. And a lot of people, let me give you an example. A lot of people are very logical. So they want to influence their customers or their employees logically. But that doesn't mean that person is. They might be influenced by what we call inspiration. Won't it be great when we restore your house to where it was previous the water flood or fire? So where you're painting that picture. Other people are influenced, for example, through participation. They want to be part of that conversation. What are your thoughts? How you work on that? And then, of course, some people are influenced through compliments. So there's 4 different styles right there. So what I do with the clients is I practice with them, help them develop those skills, remember how to word those particular phrases, and of course, identify what your customer is. But it becomes practicing. It becomes stretching those muscles.
Yes. Okay. So then what tips do you give leaders to draw the power skills out of their team? Maybe they can tell that somebody could be a good influencer, but I've seen examples where somebody comes in as a technician, but their customer service skills or their sales or closing skills are out of this park. And so that's a good opportunity to move somebody into a different arena, but maybe that person's not comfortable. So what does that look like to draw out the power skills that often I think leaders can see in some of their top performers that maybe the top performer doesn't see in themselves?
Well, I highly encourage them to have some type of a partnership or a mentoring program where they can work together and they can shadow them. And then they can do, of course, most of them don't want to hear the word role play, but they can actually, we call the word practice or homework, whatever you want to call it, but they have an opportunity to practice what that new skill is so that they can feel comfortable going out there and doing it. So, but I think the shadowing works great. You can call it mentoring, you can call it shadowing, whatever you want to call it, but being, again, open with your communication, and you're giving them the feedback, you're talking about it, you're asking them their interests. And then a lot of it's building their confidence, because they're like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to leave me where I am. But talking about how it's important to continue to grow and what is the future hold for that person. So that entices them to kind of go out of their box, but lots and lots of positive reinforcement helps that individual build that confidence.
Do you have any good stories that can be kind of anonymous stories of somebody that you've seen where they really learned to harness their power skill? Maybe it's a leader, or maybe it's an employee that became a leader, like just a story from somebody that you've worked with where you watched them go from the beginning to, like through the roof as they developed their soft skills or power skills.
Absolutely. I just finished with a client. We had a year contract, and I just finished working with them, and they had received all kinds of praises and opportunities and promotions, etc. But a lot of it was absolutely them actually role playing with me one-on-one. We were talking through it and practicing how to develop your people. The people was the issue, and being able to be comfortable with giving feedback, being able to be confident in having those difficult conversations when the person isn't showing up on work on time or isn't interacting positively with their teammates, whatever it is, but being able to deal with it and being assertive. Because I think that's one of the biggest things that we have to work with people on, is having that confidence to do the tough portion of the job. Managing people is not easy. So we really have to work and practice, and we have to set aside the time. I mean, I mentioned it earlier in our chat, but I highly encourage people that are in leadership roles to have 15, 30 minutes of downtime for themselves to plan their next meeting and interaction with the person, to go in and intentionally have the right words that they want to use with that person, to get them excited, to get them motivated, and to be able to share with them the difficult conversation if that's what's at hand. But having that quiet time is important. I think we go 90 miles an hour all day long, and we don't intentionally plan how we're going to have the tough conversations. So that would be my big tip.
I agree with that. It's much easier to go into those having kind of a script, even if it's in your head, or a few like keywords jotted down in front of you, even if it's not full-fledged notes that they can see, but any sort of being prepared for that goes a lot better than, you don't want to say things that you don't mean to say either. So
exactly. You can't take those words back.
You cannot. You cannot. Okay. All right. Anything else that you want to add on power skills, developing power skills, especially in the trades where, restoration is a big trade industry. So anything else that you want to add before I ask my final question?
Nope. I guess I would say there's lots of YouTubes out there. There's lots of articles. I think you continuing to grow and devoting your time to yourself is most important, and being able to get feedback. I believe in having stakeholders, people that are around you that have that ability to give you feedback and have your best interests at heart, and asking others for feedback. That's starting to create the climate of growth and feedback, and that you want to learn. And I think the restoration industry hasn't seen that.
Mhm.
It hasn't been that way in general. But I think you can start that trend. And I see some of the owners I've worked with have started that pattern, and it has begun to grow throughout the organization. And it is a much healthier organization now, and it lowers your retention because people want feedback, especially our millennials. They want to hear how they're doing. No news is good news in their mind, and that could be not so good. So we want to be able to create that environment. So that would be the number one thing.
Perfect. Okay. What would you consider your number one power skill?
My number one power skill, I think, is without a doubt helping leaders understand how to grow and coach their people, which leads to retention, which leads to a happier culture, being able to make that change permanently. There is a secret to what I do for a living, coaching, and that secret is getting it out of their mouth, not mine. So with that, that's why I talk about articles. That's why I talk about YouTubes, because the person has to see it, realize it, and own it. Something called visualization. And I take my clients through that visualization, and then I teach them how to do that with their employees. And that's my power skill, is being able to help people develop others.
Like that. Get it out of their mouth, not mine. That's true.
Exactly. Because that's the difference between telling versus asking.
Yes.
One of my favorite articles out there, telling versus asking, which works. So if we own it, we do a better job at it. We're more passionate, and the probability of a success grows from 3 to 4% to 83%, that they're going to actually change that behavior permanently. Anybody can change behavior short term because you stand over like this, right? You're a bad employee, right? You stand over them when we do this. But if you want that permanent change, you have to help them talk it through. Exactly what Olympic gold medal coaches do. Visualization. That's the key.
Yes. Yeah. The coach can't win the gold. The athlete has to win the gold and train for it and want it.
And there's hundreds of YouTubes out there from the gold medalists, from the Olympic gold medalists to Robert Downey Jr. to Iron Man. All those people talk about, how did I become a celebrity? How did I make all this money? It's the visualization piece. But in coaching, what you're doing is you're talking it through out loud with them, and that's my power skill.
I love it. All right. Well, Amy, thank you so much for joining me. Those who are watching, you don't know, but Amy and I had multiple tech glitches. So this is third time's the charm on getting this done. So thank you.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for your expertise. I love chatting with you and sitting through your classes. So thank you for what you brought to the conversation.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.